Arjuna asks Sri Krishna Paramatma to drive his chariot to the center of the place, there is a place, both the armies are standing opposite each other, right? There will be a center place in between these two armies. Take me there and place me there. I just want to get a complete view of the opponent army. So Sri Krishna drives the chariot and puts Arjuna there. Arjuna looks at everything, and then Arjuna's morale is down. Arjuna looks at his grandfather, his own teacher, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, his cousins, his maternal uncles, his elders like Bahlika. And then he breaks down. He says, he tells Sri Krishna Paramatma that my body has lost all of its energy looking at the opponent's army. Not because of the enormity of the army, but because it is my own people that I'm going to kill in the next few days. That thought itself is bringing me down. I don't think I'll be able to do this at all, ever. How can I kill my own grandfather who brought me up with so much of love and affection? How can I kill my own teacher who taught me all this weaponry? Did he teach me so that I could grow up and kill him? Is this what I am going to? Is this my Guru Dakshina to my own teacher? I cannot do this. And then he says, my legs are, there is no energy in my legs are trembling, and I'm not even able to stand, let alone waging a war. Then Sri Krishna Paramatma, now at this point of time, understands that he has to deliver a very, very, I don't know, my English vocabulary is in short to explain anything related to Bhagavad Gita. He is next few minutes, next few hours, whatever, we don't know what that time frame is. We don't know how much time Krishna took to enlighten Arjuna at that point of time. But he has delivered something that holds good for the mankind for the yugas to come. Not years, not decades, not centuries. This Bhagavad Gita has not gone through any kind of, it doesn't need any kind of amendment, no matter what the situation in the society is. I say this because every country has a constitution, right? Every country has a law. With
North Korea doesn't have a constitution.
Yeah, that's a dictatorship. Whatever comes into. No, let's not take those outliers. Let's stick to the countries that follow a little bit of democracy, okay? There could be outliers everywhere. So most of the countries where you have the election process and everything, they have something called a constitution, something that talks about what is right, what is not, what is punishable, what is appreciable, things like that. And with time, they undergo changes. They go through some changes. Like, say, for example, with the advancement of technology, there could arise situations which were not possible in the past. With AI, it is practically possible for me to do things like, I can take somebody's picture, take their head part of it and attach that to animal, say, and then claim that, okay, this person looks so ugly, or I can do anything that might hurt the sentiments of the opposite person. Sometimes that could be very dangerous also. Sometimes I could take, if you think some act which you think is very harmless can turn out to be a very harmful one. Say, for example, I post my picture on a Facebook or an Instagram. Today, literally anybody can download that picture, take my picture, put it to some ugly picture or something which is not dressed properly, and they could circulate it. There is no law to punish such kind of people because that was not a possibility in 1950s when the law was written. So your law has to be amended so that this can be called out as a crime, right? So it means every constitution, I'm just taking one example, there could be multiple such things happening because of the advancement of technology, because of how people have changed, how the ethical behaviors have changed. You have to make changes to your law, your constitution, your everything. But under no circumstances you will be able to find Bhagavad Gita needing an amendment. It holds good at any point of time in the history, in the past, in future, in present. That is what is Bhagavad Gita for us. So, yes, Satharva.
I heard like as the years pass, like doesn't like Dharma decline?
Yes, Dharma declines, but Bhagavad Gita is not outdated. Bhagavad Gita is true even today.
So like in 2050 there will be less Dharma than
Maybe, but still the Bhagavad Gita would be correct even on that day as well. So, what does this Bhagavad Gita say actually? Honestly, at this point of time, I am not someone who is capable of explaining Bhagavad Gita. I'm not at that level. In future, if I, with Sri Krishna Paramatma's grace, if I'm able to explain, put Bhagavad Gita into simplified thing, then I would consider myself blessed. But at this point of time, I'll try to at least give you a gist of what he tried to say. So, Sri Krishna Paramatma starts with a statement saying, "Don't cry." So, Bhagavad Gita starts with the statement, "Don't cry," ends with the statement, "Don't cry." And what Sri Krishna Paramatma is telling in between these two "don't cry" statements is that, what do you think of yourself? Do you think you are going to be responsible for the death of people and then something catastrophic? Do you think you are the owner of all these things? And first of all, try to understand, what are you crying about? Crying about death of a person? As if you are going to be the one who is going to be permanently staying on the earth? The most meaningless thing for anybody to do is mourn or cry the death of somebody else, because at some point of time, everybody is bound to die. Nobody has come to this earth saying that they'll be living forever. Right? So, leave that emotion aside. This is not the moment where you should become emotional, and this particular emotion, whatever you are facing right now, has got no meaning to it. You are not the one who's killing, you are not the one who is responsible for the birth. Everything is me. If something is being killed on this battleground, it is me who is killing it. Only the action part is being done by some other human being. But the entire result of this is owned by me. It is me. It is not you. So don't come under the illusion that you are performing something, you are doing something. It's actually not you. That is one of the most important lessons that everybody needs to understand. We all think that I have got a job, I've got a new job. It is my worth that is giving me this kind of a trophy. So that kind of ahankaram, ego, that kind of ego should never enter your head. The me, myself, the greed should go away from your head. It's not you. Everything is belonging to Paramatma. That is one of the biggest lessons that Sri Krishna Paramatma says. So if everything is belonging to Paramatma, why should I struggle? Don't you think so? If you are achieving good grades, and if you have to have the maturity to say that, oh, I'm achieving the good grades, but it is not mine, it is Vishnu's, then why should you struggle for the grades? Why should you go through the pain for this? Yes.
Because God gives you so much, you're basically just giving it back to Him.
God gives, everything belongs to God. What is the point of you giving something back to God? When nothing is yours, you are in the illusion that something is yours, but in actual, nothing is yours. Everything is God's.
If you don't care, then it'll show that you're not hardworking and worthy of something.
So, correct. So, what God says, what Sri Krishna Paramatma says is, you only own the action. Action is yours. The result of the action is not yours. Don't ask for the result. Result is mine. Karmanyevadikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma palaheturpu ma te sangostva karmani. It means do the action. Don't claim the ownership of the result. Because look at it in a different way. Look at it from a completely different perspective. I have worked so hard towards getting an admission into Harvard, okay, or getting an admission into some prestigious university. How much ever efforts I put, I'm not able to make it into the Harvard. All of your friends who are probably not having such great grades or having grades that are lesser than you are making it into Harvard. How would you feel at that point of time? Yes. Jealous? Okay. Confused?
Honestly,
Frustrated.
One second. Frustrated? Yes, Atharva.
there are also other factors for your Harvard, like
No. Just keep your conversation just to this, okay? There could be n number of factors. I don't deny that. But hypothetically, in our problem statement, I'm trying to tell you that you are better than a lot of your friends who are making it into Harvard, but you are not able to make it. Yeah. You raised your hand.
You're not going to feel good about yourself.
You're not gonna. You start questioning your worth, your self worth, right? Anybody else? Any other feelings that you will get if such a situation arises? Yes. Angry. Yes. Angry.
All the negative emotions.
So, all the emotions, yes.
Even though they didn't do anything, you're kind of going to get mad at them.
Mad at them. Yeah. Frustration, anger. Anger towards who? Anger towards people who are evaluating your application, right? You will get all of these are negative emotions. None of them is positive. Is any of this emotion going to help you make it into Harvard? No. So, at this point of time, apply Bhagavad Gita. Apply Bhagavad Gita and think that, okay, I have done my job. I have not been able to make it into Harvard. Maybe I am made for something much better. Or maybe I'll not flourish in Harvard for whatsoever reasons. If you think like that, you'll stay positive, and maybe who knows, you'll be able to make it into a better university, or maybe you will get a 100% fee waiver elsewhere and you will get a admission there. And in future, you might be a professor at Harvard, not a student but a professor at Harvard. You never know. And sometimes you really try to say, for example, this is a very simple example. I want to go to a certain place and I'm hurrying up. I want to really be on time to that particular place. But there is a traffic signal that catches me. Route 59 is so busy that I'm not able to make it on time. I'll be so frustrated. I want to go. I'm running late. My flight is. I'm not able to catch my flight. And
Auntie,
yes,
what is Route 59?
that is a very busy road in our area. Everybody will be able to relate to it. So I took that. So you are stuck in the traffic. You are not able to catch your flight, and you will be so frustrated. You'll curse yourself. You'll scold the children who delayed it, or you'll curse the traffic, or you'll tell your husband that I told you not to take a house there. Look now what happened. I hate this area. But after a couple of hours, you imagine you reading a news about that particular flight landing into a crash or something like that. So there is a meaning to everything. You may not be able to get answers at this moment. Don't start questioning your worth. Don't start questioning the God, because God's plans are always better than your plans, right? He knows much more. He knows what to give you. So what Sri Krishna Paramatma is trying to say by asking you to not show your authority over result is that I will give you what you deserve. You may be asking for something much smaller than what I am planning to give you, right? Don't ask. Do your action. Don't ask. You will get I will give you the result. So he's not denying you something that you are deserving. He's saying that I know much better about what you deserve than what you know about yourself. So leave the result to me. Do the action. Action is the only thing that is in your control. Action is the only thing that you can do. Yes.
Whenever I like do like a good achievement, like get a good grade on a test, or like when I was in 3rd grade I got into PA English. My mom said it was all because of God, and then I prayed to God like the whole day.
Good. That's good. That is exactly what your mom was trying to tell you. She cannot give you so much of philosophy at third grade, right? Even at this age, it's difficult, but I'm trying. And I think you guys are getting it. So that is these are the two most important things. There are a lot of things. It is 700 slokas. Vyasa Bharatam. It is in 700 slokas, and yeah, and each one of them has this level of in-depth philosophy tied to it. Sorry.
What?
No, you said something.
I said, huh?
Yeah. So we cannot really go into each verse of Bhagavad Gita. That is something that you guys need to grow up and read for yourself. Don't do it for the sake of reading it. It might take years for you to completely understand Bhagavad Gita, or maybe the entire lifetime. Keep going to it again and again and again. Every time you read it, you look at it from a completely different perspective. Oh, last time when I read it, this meaning did not come to me. I did not think about it this way. Now when I read, I'm getting a completely different opinion of it. Oh my God, I put it. So after this, Arjuna asks Sri Krishna Paramatma to reveal himself. Until then, Arjuna always thought about Sri Krishna Paramatma as his friend, or as his cousin, as his bhava or something like that. And he would have played jokes with him. He would have treated him like any other human being. But now at this point of time, after Sri Krishna Paramatma reveals Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, he understands that this person is not a normal human being like whatever I am thinking of. He is something else. I want to see his true form. And then he requests Sri Krishna Paramatma to reveal his true form. And when he reveals his true form, my God, this is giving me goosebumps actually. So you cannot see my true form with your normal eyes. I need to give you divine vision so that you will have that strength to see my aura, see my power. And then when he reveals himself, one of his eyes is looking like one of his eyes is sun, the other eye is a moon, and he can see Brahma, Vishnu, Parameshwara, all three of them within Vishnu himself. And he also sees all the forms of the elements. What are the elements? Water, fire, wind, land, and what's the fifth one?
Lightning?
Sky.
Energy.
Sky.
Wait, the sky? Isn't the sky basically wind?
No. So he sees everything within Sri Krishna. He also sees the birth and rebirth cycle. So people are emerging like human beings, trees, animals, everything that is living, charachara jagat, it's emerging from Vishnu and again entering back Vishnu. So creation, destruction, everything is a cycle. So during his Bhagavad Gita revelation to Arjuna, he says that what are you worried about? Are you worried about the physical form, physical human body that you are seeing? That is nothing. The Atma, the soul within your body is indestructible. You are thinking that you are killing Bhishmacharya, but Bhishmacharya's Atma, you don't have the capacity of viewing it or neither destroying it. It is not destructible. It is all these people who are going to die are going to enter me, and again going to take a birth in another body, another form. So your next form depends on the actions that you perform now. If you have performed bad deeds, you will have a life of difficulties. If you have done good deeds, you will have a comfortable life. You will have a life of less difficulties. So it is that action is in your hand. That action, I'm not governing it. I'm only showing you the path. Whether you take the path or not is up to you. You have to train your brain so that it is not distracted towards the bad things. You have to go behind the good things. That is in your hands. That is the karma that he talks about. Karma is dictating your next lives. So he shows the form. He shows his form, and in his form, he is also seen with all of his weapons. One lotus in one hand, this bow, Sudarshan Chakra in another hand. With all those weapons, he's seen. You have to watch that episode of Kurukshetra, then you will be able to relate to what I'm saying. So with that, Arjuna falls onto his knees and then he understands the ultimate truth, and then he asks Sri Krishna Paramatma to withdraw his divine appearance, because he cannot take that energy anymore any longer. And then Sri Krishna Paramatma comes back to his original form as Sri Krishna, and then Arjuna bows to Sri Krishna and says that now my entire this Maya, whatever was surrounding me and making me think that I'm going to kill my own people, all this Maya is gone. Now I'm ready to take on the war. Let's move ahead. With that, Bhagavad Gita comes to a conclusion. But we have only scratched the surface. The tip of the iceberg is what we have seen with respect to Bhagavad Gita. Each one of us, it's a blessing, you know. Each one of us is born into a culture with such gurus. Okay, by the way, this is why this guy Sri Krishna is called Jagat Guru, because he has taught the entire world how to lead life. So he is called Jagat Guru.
Bhagavad Gita is just not like
Yes.
slokas or something. It is just like
Jagat means the universe.
live the life.
Guru means you know, right?
There is some
Okay, now, yeah, sorry, continue.
just to tip this.
Yeah.
It is not just that we are reading slokas and Krishna is a god and we are praying. It's not like that. It is just that how we should be in our daily life, and what, as Auntie said, how don't expect the results and do your job, okay? And if something is failing, don't get mad by yourself or don't cry, okay? The first tip is not to cry, okay? That is the tip.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I don't want to stop.
No, that's fine.